"Sir, I need to see your ID." The words cut through the gentle clatter of dishes and quiet conversations like a knife. Elias Vance didn't flinch. His fingers, resting on the edge of the table, moved slowly toward the worn leather wallet beside his iced tea. Across from him, Maya froze, her fork paused in midair. "Excuse me?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. The man standing by their table wore plain clothes, but the badge clipped to his belt and the holster under his jacket made his purpose clear. Sheriff Brody, the local lawman known for staying in control, had shown up, uninvited and determined. "We got a report of suspicious behavior," Brody said, locking eyes on Elias. "I need to check his ID." Elias didn't argue. He pulled out his ID slowly, like someone who'd had to do this too many times before. Brody snatched it away, studying it as if expecting to find something wrong. Maya's voice sharpened. "He's just paying his bill. That's the suspicious part." Brody ignored her. "You're not from Havenwood, Mr. Vance." "I just arrived," Elias said calmly. "I plan to stay for a while." Around them, phones began recording. A couple by the window stopped eating. Even the music seemed to fade, as if the Bluebird Bistro itself was holding its breath. Maya pulled out her phone. "This is being recorded," she said, turning the camera toward Brody. "Go ahead, smile." The tension in the room felt alive, stretched tight and ready to snap. And in the middle of it sat Elias, calm, steady, his weathered face unreadable. "You should be careful with your assumptions," Elias told Brody. No anger, just quiet truth. Brody's hand hovered near his hip, close enough to threaten, but he didn't draw. Elias stayed still. Then, just as suddenly, Brody stepped back. "You're free to go," he muttered, turning and walking away without another word. Silence settled over the diner, thick as syrup. That night, Elias sat alone in his rented cottage. The stillness felt familiar, almost comforting. Resting lightly in his lap was an old black and white photo of himself in uniform decades ago. The first black man in his state trooper unit, back when justice carried a price, and he paid it every day. The photo had been taken just weeks before the call that ended with another black man dead for walking suspiciously. That was the case that had made Elias leave everything behind. His phone buzzed, a message from Maya, a video link. He tapped it and watched the scene from earlier, Brody demanding his ID, Maya standing up for him, and his own quiet restraint, now seen by thousands online. The comments were what he expected, half outrage, half denial. At the Havenwood Clinic, Maya felt the fallout. People whispered. Some avoided her gaze. One long-time patient asked for a different nurse. Another muttered, "You people always make it about race." That evening, as she slammed her bag down, Elias didn't even ask, but she spoke anyway. "They're treating me like I'm the problem." "Me?" Elias stirred his tea. "Some folks think silence means peace. What you did today made them uncomfortable. You should have told him who you were," Maya said quietly. "You used to be one of them." Elias looked up. "And if I had, would he see me as a man with authority, or a black man pretending to have it?" A knock interrupted them, short and deliberate. Maya opened the door. No one stood there, but on the porch lay an envelope. Inside was a newspaper clipping from the Havenwood Gazette. A photo of Elias entering the bistro, a red X drawn across his face, and scrawled underneath in crude letters, "Not welcome." Maya caught her breath. This is a threat. Elias folded the paper calmly. "This isn't about me. It's about what I represent." She stared at him. "But this is serious." "I know," he said softly, placing the clipping in his desk drawer beside an old badge, worn but still whole. "We don't guess anymore, Maya. We're a mirror, and some people don't like what they see." The next morning, Elias walked into the Havenwood Sheriff's Department. The fresh lemon polish couldn't hide the bitterness in the air. He noticed the wary glances, the tight smiles that didn't reach anyone's eyes. Sheriff Brody stepped out of his office, his polite mass in place. "Mr. Vance, what brings you here?" Elias met his gaze, calm as someone who had survived threats and worn uniforms heavier than any gun. "I think you know why I'm here," Elias said. Brody gestured stiffly. "Let's talk." They stepped inside and closed the door behind them. Two men, one clinging to control, the other reclaiming dignity, ready for a difficult conversation. Havenwood had spent too long looking the other way, and behind shuttered blinds and whispering pines, the town seemed to wait, wondering who would back down first. Chief Vance, Sheriff Brody finally said, the title sounding sour on his tongue. Welcome. Inside his office, the air felt tight, like a wire pulled to its limit. Elias didn't bother with small talk. Sheriff Brody, he began, his voice steady. Tell me, would you have approached anyone else the way you did me at the Bluebird Bistro? Brody's jaw tightened. I was answering a report. Elias tilted his head slightly. A report based on what? Brody stayed silent, and that silence spoke louder than any excuse. Elias saw it clearly now. The prejudice here wasn't loud or angry. It hid behind polite words, disguised a concern protected by old habits. Later that week, the Havenwood Town Council met in a small hall filled with wooden chairs and hushed murmurs. Mayor Evelyn Thompson stood at the podium, her face carefully calm. Please welcome Elias Vance, our new chief of police. Polite applause followed, but beneath the clapping hands and careful smiles was something colder. Doubt. To many in the room, Elias wasn't just new, he was different. A black man with authority, in a town that liked to pretend color didn't matter. Elias stood tall. I believe in trust, fairness, and community, he said. I came here to serve every resident of Havenwood equally. His words were soft, but they settled over the crowd like mist, touching every corner of the room. The next evening, Elias went to a quiet gathering at the Havenwood Community Center. It hadn't been announced, just long-time residents, most of them people of color, sharing stories in hushed voices. Stories of suspicious glances, random traffic stops, job interviews that ended before they began. It's always quiet, an older woman said, like breathing in something you can't see, but you feel it, and you know you don't truly belong. Elias nodded, listening carefully. He didn't interrupt. He didn't promise to fix everything overnight. He just listened, and that felt like hope. Later that night, driving back along dark roads lined with tall pines, a pickup truck suddenly swerved in front of him. Tires screeched as Elias slammed on the brakes. A man leaned out a window, face hidden by a cap. Turn back while you still can, he snarled. Before Elias could react, the truck sped away, leaving him gripping the wheel, his breath slowing. The cold that seeped in wasn't from the night air. It was a chill of a warning. The next morning, Elias got to the sheriff's department early. His office felt empty, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. On his desk sat a folded piece of paper. No envelope, just words written in rough script. Some traditions run deeper than you think. He looked at it for a long moment, then slipped it into a drawer. They wanted to shake him, to see fear. Instead, he leaned back and began drafting plans for community policing. Weeks passed, and Elias became a steady presence in Havenwood. Not loud, but always there, visiting churches, attending school meetings, walking the neighborhoods. His work didn't make headlines, but slowly it changed things. Maya stayed beside him, her quiet strength guiding him. She knew the hidden rhythms of the town, whose hands to shake when silence spoke louder than words. One Friday, they returned to the Bluebird Bistro. The same warm smell of roasted coffee and baked peaches greeted them. They sat at the same table. The server from that first night walked over, this time his shoulders less stiff, his smile easier. Evening, Chief, he said. Good to see you again. As they ate, the diners around them didn't stare as long. The whispers seemed softer. It wasn't everything, but it was something. As they stood to leave, Mayor Thompson appeared near the doorway, her coat draped over her arm. She paused, then stepped closer. Chief Vance, she said, her voice gentle. Havenwood doesn't change fast, but I've noticed the way people look at you now. Some of us see it, we see what it takes. Elias met her eyes, his voice calm and steady. The strongest roots grow quietly. Change doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's already here before anyone hears it. She nodded, a hint of warmth in her expression. Driving home, Elias looked out across Havenwood. The quiet porches, the glow of streetlights, the stillness of a town that hadn't decided what it wanted to become. Yet beneath that doubt, he could feel something beginning to grow. The fights he faced weren't always visible, but they mattered, because in towns like Havenwood, real change rarely came with noise. It arrived quietly, carried by steady courage.